I'm Yvonne Prin with Bible 805, and we are on day 18, where we are in Mark chapters 5 and 6, reading through the New Testament. And here, Jesus continues to heal people. First, he heals a demon possessed man. He is actually possessed by a whole legion of demons, it says, and Jesus puts them into a herd of pigs, and they rush down a hill and are drowned. And the man, when he says he comes to himself, and Jesus just tells him, "Go home to your family and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he had mercy on you." So he goes out, sort of an unusual start for a missionary, but he goes out and shares with the people about Jesus. And then the next story is about a dead girl and a sick woman. A man comes to him, and his daughter's died, and he is hoping that Jesus can do something about it. And Jesus says, "Don't worry, she's just sleeping." And people laugh at him, but Jesus goes towards his home. And on the way, a woman is following him, and she has had this horrible bleeding disease for, I believe it is something like 17 years, and nobody could heal her. And she just thinks, if I can just touch Jesus, I'll be well. And she sort of creeps up behind him, and she touches his robe, and she says immediately she was healed. She knew she was healed. And it says that Jesus felt the power go out of him, and he said, "Who touched me?" And of course, she's just terrified. She comes up to him and, "Oh, I did." And he just says, "Don't be afraid. Just believe." And she is healed. And he says, "You're freed from your infirmity. Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." And that's how Jesus heals people. He heals them completely, sometimes in surprising ways, not always physically in this life, but we can always go in peace after we've had an encounter with Jesus. And then he continues on to the ruler's house. His little girl has died, but that's not a problem for Jesus, and he raises her from the dead and gives her back to her family. He goes on into his hometown, and after all of these wonderful things happening, he preaches in their synagogue. It doesn't give us the detailed account like Matthew did, but afterwards they go, "Well, who does he think he is? And his mother and his brothers here, and who is he anyway?" And Jesus just says, "Yeah, only in his hometown, among his relatives, and in his own house, a prophet is without honor." And it says he wasn't able to do very many miracles there, but he did heal a few sick people. And then he goes on. And after that, he sends out the 12 to go out in his name and to preach, and that people should repent. They drove out demons, and they anointed sick people and healed them. And then a sad event where John the Baptist is beheaded. And it says that afterwards, of course, his disciples came and took him and put him in a tomb. But Jesus can't stop to mourn. He can't stop to grieve. He goes on, and right after that, they uh, they have a whole bunch of people that come to him, and it says, of course, like Jesus does in so many instances, he had compassion on the people because they'd been with him a long time and they were hungry. And Jesus says, "Well, give them something to eat." He says, "You give them something to eat." And they don't know they don't know what to do. They go, "We can't do that." They go, "Well, what do you have?" And they said, "Well, we have five loaves and two fish." And Jesus multiplies that to feed the multitude. And he does that. He can take, even today, what little we have in the most extraordinary ways and bless people with it. This passage ends with him walking on the water. They've gone out in the ship ahead of him. A big storm comes up. They're terrified, and Jesus walks to them and says, "Peace, be still." And they don't know what to make of it. It says that they they didn't they their hearts were hardened, and they just didn't know what to do. But he continues on throughout the region. He heals people. It says all who touched him were healed. And again, whether it's physical, emotional, whatever, we know if we reach out to Jesus, he will heal us. Maybe not completely in this life, but we are promised complete healing.